Hi guys, I'm back again and I'm going to paint some veins. That's my first step. I don't know if you can see what the lid says, but I get my paints from Honey Bun and it comes in pre-mixed colors, and this is vein color. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of veins to the arms and legs, and I put a little blue on my lid, and you just need a tiny bit. And I find the thinnest little brush I have, and I'm just going to show you, slightly add a vein. And I don't want to do too much because I don't want too much veining for a toddler, so I'm just going to add a little bit. I'm not going to add any to my the head because I think my mom would prefer it that way. And so I'm just going to add a little bit like that. You guys can see. If you want, you can add like another little line to it. Just kind of make it a little branch off a little bit. So. And now I'm going to do a leg. Let me move the head back a little bit. And see, I just add a little bit, and then when I add the flesh and stuff, that'll make it a little bit lighter too. So I don't want to add too much blue. And if you think you got it a little too dark, you can smudge it a little bit with your sponge and take off the excess paint a little bit, or wipe it off with a little bit of water. See, and I can just take my sponge and just kind of wipe it off if I think it's a little too much paint. And that's how I do the veins. So we'll be back again with the next step, and that'll be the flesh, and I'll show that to you in just a second. Well, hi guys. So I'm going to do, it's been a couple hours and I let the blue dry, and now I'm going to use this light flesh that I got from Honey Bun. And I add a little distilled water to the paint. Here's my paint, and I'm going to add a little water so I can thin it down to the consistency I want. So I just kind of mix the paint up until it's a light watery consistency. And let's see, I need a cosmetic sponge. Where did I put those? I know they were here just a second ago. I'll be right back. Okay, I had to go get some more cosmetic sponges, but I'm going to show you what I do. I'm going to start with the feet, and usually I just dab the paint on with the cosmetic sponge, but since we have toes, I want to use the brush to get the paint in all the little crevices that are hard to reach with the sponge, and then I'll dab it. Let me see if I can show you what I'm doing. I'm just going to get the paint right in all those little spaces that might be hard to reach with a sponge. And then I'm going to dab the extra paint off. Now, don't worry if you don't see much result in the beginning, because you are going to do lots of layers, and so it might not look like you're getting much paint on at first, but you want to do nice thin layers to make it look nice. Try to get the extra paint out between the toes right now. Let me use a clean brush and just get that extra so it doesn't look like all gobbed up. So I want all the paint to look nice and even. And I'm going to dip my sponge in and start painting the rest of the, and I just dab, dab, dab like I did with the matte varnish. Also, what you can do too, if you don't want to put paint directly on the baby or the brush, you can paint your sponge. Sorry, trying to do this one-handed, and put paint directly on the sponge and then use that to dab. So everybody has kind of like a different method they do. And so I'm going to do the baby, and this will be my first layer, and I'll do his head, his feet, his arms, or her. It's going to be a girl, so I should call it a girl. And sometimes you'll get a speck of something on your vinyl. You'll have to try to get that off. A little water. Let's see. And I just use my finger and try to get that off. There we go. And just keep patting, patting, patting. And then you can start seeing the paint going on there. And you just want to make sure you get a whole even coat of paint everywhere. And that there's not too much in one spot. So if it looks like it's too much, just keep patting it. You could add a little distilled water to thin it out. And you just try to get it all over evenly. And then once you have the paint all over, you can set it down and start a new spot, new one. So you can do like the head. So I'm going to use a little brush to get inside because I can't reach all those crevices. But I'm not going to put too much paint in his mouth because I'm going to paint his mouth a different color. But I want to get all those little creases that my little sponge might not be able to reach. So like right here around his eyes. And we got the ears. And I will do some blushing inside of his ears later, but see, I want to wipe it out so there's just not a big puddle of paint. Just want it behind the ears is another hard spot to get with the paint. See, and this was a second kit, and I think this is the flaw that was in my second kit, but you really can't notice it, and once you put hair on, you're not going to see that at all. I'm just going to brush behind the ear. And then just pat that with the sponge until the paint is all over evenly and doesn't look too wet. And then I'll let that dry for a couple hours. And I'll do my next layer. So I'm going to do this all over the face, the head, the arms, the feet. And just sponge off any extra paint till it looks all even. And so I'm going to go all under the chin and all the crevices, and I'll be back with when I'm ready for the second layer. So, or actually this technically is the second layer because the veins was the first, but so we'll be back with the third layer. And I think my third layer will be probably the creases. So we'll be back. Well, now I'm going to do the creases. So I mixed a little of this is called creases, and I get that from the Honey Bun website, and I'll put a link down below. And so what I'm going to do is wherever there's a crease, I'm going to add a little bit of that color to it, going to get it to where you can see. So I followed this line and add it in, and you just don't have to add a lot. And I'll follow this line and add a little to there, and then I'll take my cosmetic sponge and dab it, get all the extra paint off. And if I wanted a little darker, I can add another layer, or I can do another flesh layer and then add another crease layer if I want to. Let me see. So I'll get like in between the little toes. What you just kind of want to do is add a little dimension and color. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because you're going to dab it with your cosmetic sponge and, you know, get all that extra paint off. Especially if you're doing your first babies, don't worry about it being perfect. And you don't like how it turns around, you can get like the little water on your sponge and thin